What's going on, everyone? Mike Kadlick, Tayler Kyles here for CLNS Media outside of Gillette Stadium as the Patriots get ready to take on the San Francisco 49ers this coming weekend. They will leave Friday to head to the West Coast. A reminder, we are powered by Prize Picks and Game Time. Head over there at both sites. Use code CLNS at Prize Picks to get $50 off when you play $5, and on Game Time you get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. All right, Taylor, we're here. It's Wednesday, and we just spoke to Jacoby Brissett before going out to practice. Brissett talking about that Patriots offensive line, reiterating that it's hard for them to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but it's coming, and they're going to settle in. We went out to practice. Looked like Caden Wallace would be limited at practice today. Same with guard Michael Jordan. City So, however, is back, but when we saw Caden Wallace in the locker room today, looked like he had a big brace on his right knee, and again, a limited participant. So, heading into week 4, the problem has been the offensive line this entire time. Although they get City So back, it looks like problems may be getting worse on the outside. Vidarian Lowe, a limited participant as well. So what do you make of it all? What do you think is going on with the offensive line, and how do you see them improving before Sunday?
Well, it's not good, that's for sure, and I'm sure that's not going to be a surprise to anybody. Yeah. If DeMontre Jacobs, no offense to him as a player, but obviously they claimed him after roster cuts, so not a guy like he was in their plans necessarily. So you're talking about a left side of the offensive line that's going to have DeMontre Jacobs, City So, who hasn't practiced in about a month now, and then obviously the right side with Layden Robinson. It has been inconsistent because he is a rookie. There's going to be those obvious growing pains, but we talk about this unit growing, and when you talk about that, usually it's because you've worked next to somebody long enough where you start to understand how they work, and you put it on tape and you say, okay, next time we do this. That's very hard when now the left side is going to be completely different than what it's been in week 1 and week 2. You've had different starting lineups every single week of the season. That's a really tough place to be for an offensive line, for a group where chemistry is so important, and I know we're going to get into it, but the Drake Maye talk. We all want to see Drake Maye. We all want to see this playbook open up and the ceiling raised for the offense, but I do not feel good about putting him on an offensive line that's going to have a rookie, a backup, and then a left guard next to one of those backups who hasn't been able to play recently as much as I like City So, yeah, it's really hard for me to be optimistic about the offensive line, especially there are some vulnerabilities for this 49ers defense, especially with run defense, so that's a potential positive, but when it comes to pass rushing, I'm pretty nervous about what's going to happen this weekend.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit later on in the week, but quickly, just surface level, right? You mentioned that Drake Maye, everyone's kind of starting to talk about him playing, but this offensive line is in disarray right now, and you're going up against a 49ers team with one of the better fronts in football. Yeah, Javon Hargrave is out for the season, but Nick Bosa's still there, a couple other guys in the mix, so do you think that there's any chance, I know that they're not going to start Drake Maye, but even down the stretch of this game, we may see something like we did last week against the Jets where maybe they're struggling a little bit. Maybe they need a spark later in the half or something of that nature. Do you see any chance of Drake Maye going out there, or do you think with the way the offensive line is put together right now, stick with Jacoby at least one more week for the entirety of the game?
Yeah, my guess would be that if Jacoby's pulled, it's not going to be because of performance. As not exciting as it's been, it hasn't been very explosive, but Jacoby does continue to protect the football. There's things he needs to work on, but I think until he starts turning it over, and obviously until they think Drake is ready, we're going to continue to see Jacoby. So I wouldn't expect to see Drake Maye out there, especially because, again, the left side of the offensive line is a brand new combination that we've never even seen before, and on top of that, obviously on the right side, Layden Robinson has been up and down. Understandable. I cannot emphasize that enough. He is a rookie. He's showing the positive flashes that you'd want to see that justify him being on the field, but that's 3 pretty glaring holes up front where typically on an offensive line, you don't really want to see 2, and especially when one of those is a left tackle and a guy that's really your 4th stringer, it's not looking good.
One more note from today's Patriots practice down here in Foxboro. Today, on Wednesday, Gerard Mayo announces before the session that Ja'Whaun Bentley will go on IR. His season likely to be over. He said there may be a possibility, but he didn't want to get into him playing down the stretch just yet, but also announces that Kyle Duggar is going to take over as a team captain on the defensive side of the ball. What do you make of that move?
I thought it was really cool. Gerard Mayo said that it was a very close vote for the captains. I figured that Kyle Duggar and Jelani Tavai would be in the mix considering the roles they have on the defense. Mayo mentioned that Kyle Duggar's had the green dye. He mentioned the physicality he brings. Also how Duggar has been more of a vocal leader, kind of not the same obviously because they're different ages and different experience levels, but like we heard from Keon White, where they're 2 guys that are very quiet. We don't hear a lot from them in the locker room, but clearly behind the scenes they are taking that step. So cool to see that from Kyle Duggar, a guy who's been on this team for a long time, been one of the biggest playmakers on this team for years. So made a lot of sense, and it was cool to see him get that honor.
I thought it was interesting, too. Mayo brought it back to when he was a player, and when he would get hurt, as a captain. Bill Belichick asked him, would you mind if we brought in another captain and had someone kind of take over your leadership role while you're rehabbing, not around the building all the time? And Bentley was all for it. And so then they bring Duggar in as sort of that replacement while Bentley gets better. So keep it locked in here for more updates on the Patriots offensive line. Will they start a fourth left tackle in 4 games, Taylor? We'll have to wait and see. But make sure you keep it here, rate, review, subscribe to the channel.